Hello, and welcome to the P3 Power Boost Podcast. I'm Lisa Thomas, your host, and we're going to be speaking with real business women with real issues in real time. They still have to perform on purpose and deliver extraordinary results. Can't wait for you to meet each of our guests as they navigate the waters of success while addressing the real issues in real time. We're here with Miss CJ Scarlett, and we're going to be talking about certifications today. But most importantly, before we get to that, we're going to talk with her about overcoming adversity. So, CJ, thank you so much for joining us today.
Lisa, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to talk to your listeners.
Yes, so let's just jump right in. So, I was sharing with you earlier that we're often, as business women, we're often in this place where vulnerability tends to be the thing that we shy away from, right? So any adversity that we're experiencing, anything that we're challenged by is not the conversation of the day. It's the thing that we go to sleep with and also wake up with. Maybe drink a couple of glasses of wine about, but never really talking about. So I wanted to just hear your story around how you've overcome adversity and tell us a little bit about that.
Well, not being able to be vulnerable and not being and trying to be everything to everyone nearly killed me. I nearly died. So I will tell you the story because I am a shameless workaholic. I love my work. I love working hard. I put in way too many hours of work, but I enjoy it so much. I just keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the early 1990s, I was grappling with some memories of teen trauma. I was sexually assaulted as a teenager twice at 19. And that caused me to develop PTSD, which a lot of your listeners right now have PTSD from sexual trauma of some kind. You know, statistically, it's a third of the women who are listening to you at least.
Yes.
And so we carry that. We carry that trauma with us. We carry that PTSD with us, but we don't talk about it and we don't process it. We don't heal from it. And between the PTSD and the workaholism, I worked myself to a point where I became physically ill. I was diagnosed with lupus and scleroderma, which are autoimmune conditions that cause the body to attack itself.
Yes.
And it causes tremendous joint pain and inflammation and all just a host of terrible, debilitating symptoms. And I was able to work off and on over the years while I went to college and got my undergrad and graduate degrees. But by 2000, I was so sick that I was going up and down the stairs on my hands and knees. I was on massive doses of steroids. I doubled my weight to 240 pounds. I looked like an 80-year-old woman. I couldn't turn a doorknob. I couldn't lift a heavy glass, a cup of coffee. I was in constant pain. And in 2002, my doctors told me that I developed pulmonary hypertension, which is not the same as like high blood pressure. It's high blood pressure in the lungs, which was causing my heart to enlarge. And then I could die at any time.
Wow.
And I was terrified. And I dove into this deep depression, curled up in my bed, and waited to die.
Wow.
And then I got the chance to meet privately with a Tibetan Buddhist Lama for advice. And I hobbled up to his house and I made a pitiful bow. And I burst into tears and I poured out my tale of woe and I waited for him to shower me with much deserved sympathy. And that's when I learned that lamas don't do dramas because he gave me a cosmic bitch slap. He told me to stop feeling sorry for myself and start thinking about the happiness of other people. And I thought, I can't take care of myself. How can I possibly help anyone else?
Yeah.
But he insisted. So on the way home, I'm driving and an ambulance flew by with a siren blaring. And I said a quick wish for the person inside would find help and healing. And I thought, well, that's easy. I can do that. So I started letting drivers go ahead of me in line and letting the mom with the crying baby go ahead of me in line at the grocery store and leaving the better handicapped spot for someone. And I felt a little happier. So I made it a daily practice to do at least one act of kindness a day. And I did things like leave inspirational notes at on the driver's side door at the cars at the cancer center and gave my cane to a woman who was struggling to walk. And I felt happier because what had happened is that I had become so consumed by my own suffering that I forgot everyone was fighting a hard battle.
Yes.
And when I did these acts of kindness, I got a jolt of mood boosting serotonin and pain killing endorphins. And so my body literally started healing from the inside out, from the heart out. And I reached a point where I was so content, so happy that I know it no longer mattered whether I was sick or well or even living or dying. I was just happy. And at
Yeah.
that point, my condition went into remission all within 18 months after I started doing these acts of kindness.
Yeah. It's interesting,
Yeah, and
right?
it sounds counterproductive to say helping others when we're
Hmm.
when we're talking about not helping ourselves.
Hmm.
But there's something about generosity and gratitude that fill your vessel. The
Hmm.
problem is when we take the generosity too far and it turns into martyrdom.
Yes.
When we are trying to be everything to everyone,
Hmm.
when we are overdoing it and we are taking care of everybody else and there's nobody taking care of us, including ourselves.
Yes.
And that's when women become sick.
Yes, yes, I love that you made that distinction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is something that happens when you give,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you're grateful, there's something that happens within.
Mm-hmm.
When you give in a way of kindness, there's something that happens. But then there's that time when you give too much that it takes you over the top, right? So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about that balance, or I'm going to call it that spot of knowing the difference. Tell us a little bit about that.
When you are giving freely of yourself from your heart to benefit another and it improves, you don't do it to get back, but you do get back. I mean, you get it back 100-fold. When you
Sure.
get those mood boosting serotonin and those pain killing endorphins
Yes.
that are so healthy for your body, then you're in a good place. But when you start feeling irritable and you feel like your cup you're totally saturated and everything else runs over, when you're barking at people in traffic and you feel like people are invading your space and you start getting irritable and resenting people, you
Yeah.
have overdone it and you need to stop. And
Yes.
I still have a problem with this. I'm being vulnerable now. I have a hard time telling people about
Yep.
this, but I
Yep. Right.
still have a problem with that
Yeah.
because I take on volunteer roles and I take on work projects and I take on family issues. And I love doing these things. But when I
Mm-hmm.
take on too much, I can start feeling that balance shifting. And when I'm out of balance completely, I start getting sick. Like I developed a terrible cold last week that I'm still trying to kick. And I was like, I got to stop. I've got to
Yeah.
stop this. So I started backing off of some of my responsibilities and delegating, which I'm not very good at doing,
Right.
to
Yeah.
reestablish that balance. Because if we don't, we will get sick, either physically sick or emotionally and mental health sick.
Yes.
And we
Yes.
won't be any good to anybody. I think it was Mother Teresa who said something about you have to put oil in your lamp to keep it lit.
Yes.
You have to
You do.
recharge your batteries. You have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. All these analogies are true.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
can't just
And you
keep running the car without gas in it.
exactly. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, again, I think the critical piece to it all is again knowing, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
are there red flags that would indicate I'm tilting over into that space of over committing or over giving of myself? Is there a way to
There are
really
two
detect?
things that are clues to me. When I start having little accidents, like I start banging my hand against the banister,
Mm,
or I start tripping, or I start recognizing that I'm angry at myself. And when I'm angry at myself, it's almost always because I'm feeling resentful because I've taken
hmm.
on too much.
Oh,
And
that's
then the other
wonderful.
one is the irritability. Because I'm a very happy, I've been named one of the happy 100 people on the planet. I'm
Right.
a happy, joyful, peaceful, loving person. And when I start feeling irritable and kind of bitchy,
Hmm.
I know that I am out of balance.
No, that's
It's a
great. That is so
personal.
great. That's so great because I think for women who are listening, right? So
Mhm.
particularly business women who are taking on the world, their business, their families, their interest in community, and maybe can't. This is great because if you start to feel sort of agitated or irritable or all of a sudden you're responding to everyone in a negative kind of way or in a space of anger, you're probably out of balance or out of
Yes.
alignment, I like to say.
Yes. And the solution is to ask for help. And that is so hard for us because as the doers, as the entrepreneurs, as the business owners, as the successful women who are overachieving, we are the ones helping others. And we love to give, but it's very, very difficult, at least for me personally, to receive.
Sure.
And so
Yeah.
to ask someone for help, I have that problem of thinking they're going to think I'm not competent if I ask for help with something. They're going to
Mm.
think I can't do it. And I always want to prove I can do it, by God. And
Hmm.
so The asking is a solution. It's going up to
Yes.
people and saying, will you take on this family responsibility? It's
Yes.
going to one of your employees and saying, can I, or not can I delegate this to you, but I'm choosing to delegate this to you.
Right.
It's going
Delegate for
to our
someone else.
partner and saying, here's what I need from you. Because if people get used to us doing it all,
Yep.
and they unknowingly or knowingly take advantage of that.
Yeah. Well,
And
I always say
so
that
we
take
have
it.
to reset those boundaries.
Yes. Yes, we do. And I always say that, people are going to take if you
Mm-hmm.
give,
Yep.
right?
And they
That's
just assume it's a free flowing, it's a an endless well that can keep giving. They don't realize how much we're giving to how many people,
exactly.
you know?
That's exactly right. So I think, it's really great. You said that, you found that asking is a powerful action,
Mm-hmm.
but to ask sometimes feels like maybe you're taking away some power or
Mm-hmm.
something,
Mm-hmm.
that you don't really see that asking is a powerful thing. It may
Yeah.
feel like it's some sign of weakness or something,
Yeah.
right?
Have you ever struggled with that, with the
Yeah,
asking part?
yeah, sure, sure. The reason I wanted to bring that particular piece up is just to go a little bit deeper, to just in an inquiry between you and I, is it possible? Is it possible that asking is power? Distinct from asking being vulnerable, less than powerful, weak. Is it possible? And this is for the audience, right? This is for you guys who are listening. CJ and I are having this conversation, but this is for you too. Is it possible that asking is a powerful act?
That it is a power move. And I never really thought of it that way, Lisa. That's very insightful. It
Yeah,
is a power move to be
yeah,
able to recognize your own, I don't want to say limitations, but your own desire to be in balance.
yes,
In harmony, as I prefer to say, because balance is 50-50 and life doesn't work that way. In harmony, where, it could be 70-30, but you're still in harmony because the joy of what you're doing is sufficient to
to
make you
make things
feel
happen.
balanced.
Yeah,
But
exactly. Yeah,
it is a pure power move.
exactly. And here's what makes it powerful. Someone has to give, or someone has to ask to give. Now, we
Mhm.
feel giving is powerful, right?
Mhm.
But we don't want to be the ones that's being given to.
Yeah. And part of that, I'm going to be perfectly, honest and really vulnerable here. I wonder if part of the difficulty with asking is that, or with constantly giving to others, is that I don't owe you anything. You kind of, not that I expect other people to owe me something, but I want to be the one with the balance in my bank account. I want
Right.
to be the one that has more
Mm,
cash. How do I put this? Do you know what I'm talking about? I want to be the one that's
that
in
has
in
the
in the
the
higher position of being the doer and the giver.
yes, because that's going to mean something,
Yeah, which is
right?
ego, pure ego.
Exactly. Pure ego.
Yeah.
Pure
Oh,
ego.
and also some protection because I don't want people to expect things of me that I can't give or that I might not be able to feel comfortable doing or whatever. So if I'm the giver and not the receiver, I don't owe them anything. There's kind of this. It's a power thing. It's a power imbalance I've got. And
Hmm.
thank you for that insight because by reframing it into a power move,
Yes.
I can see it differently, and I hope the audience can see it differently too.
Absolutely. There's power in the yin and yang of life anyway, right?
Hmm.
So if there's an imbalance when someone is giving so much more and less, right? Even when we feel that we're giving more,
Hmm.
we all of a sudden feel upset about it, right? So
Yeah.
there has to be a even exchange, if you will, of give and take for harmony to exist,
Hmm.
right? So if that is not happening, what are we really doing?
Yeah. The other big badass power move is the word no. And no is a complete sentence. To be able to, when someone says, would you do this for me? You can just say, no, I'm sorry, I can't take that on right now. Thank you. Or I don't have the bandwidth, or just no. However
Exactly.
you want to say it. And it feels really, I've started doing that and it feels really good to say, I know I can't do it all. And I'm choosing to just set a boundary here for myself to keep myself in harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
they'll find someone else who will take care of it. We're not the most important people on the planet and that have to do everything. There are other people that want to fill in too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're going to come here up on a break in just a bit, but I'll wrap this up by saying this, and I'm going to say this to the audience. Some ask, come to build a muscle to say no. And CJ has just illustrated that, right? So all of this sort of even or imbalanced exchange may be the perfect exercise to say
Mm.
no.
And this is the perfect time of year to say no, because the holidays are the most stressful time for women because we're responsible mostly for buying all the gifts and doing all the cooking and doing all the
Oh,
decorating. It's so unfair. It's so
it
unfair. So we've got to ask for help
absolutely,
and
absolutely. So
stop
we'll
being a martyr.
stop being a martyr. So we're going to take a quick few minutes of a break here, and then we'll be back to talk to CJ about certification. Thanks, CJ.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this segment of the P3 Power Boost podcast, where we discuss real issues for real businesswomen in real time. What you are about to hear is the internal dialogue of other businesswomen like you. Check it out.
Okay, what was my affirmation again? Stay focused. Stay focused. But you have a big meeting today. You know good and well you're not really ready for it. You're going to have to face this guy. I mean, I know he's been difficult and I know that he's challenging. He's your COO. He's a leader. He's not performing. But how do you lead in a way that will move the needle forward? Okay, that's right. I'm supposed to be saying affirmations. I am powerful. I am extraordinary. I am one of a kind. I mean, Jesus, it's going to be a tough day. This internal chatter that many bossy business women face is what we address within the P3 Group's program, LEAP. We create a strategic plan. We support your leadership team in coaching and educating them on being extraordinary leaders. But what about you as the CEO who's challenged by the team, by the growth of the company, by the change that you're going through, as well as the financials? This and all that women face is what we address within the LEAP program. Join us at leap.thep3group.com. We're back with CJ, Scarlett, and she's going to talk about happiness and going to give us some tips as to how we can be more happy in life and as well as in business. So, CJ, thank you so much for coming back and having this great conversation with me today. I
Been a
can't.
blast.
Yeah, it's been so much fun. Thank you so much. You talked about being happy, and when we were at the break, and you've got some tips for us there. I thought that would be a fascinating dialogue, as our clients are often dealing with the joy of life. It seems to evaporate really in all the things that we're doing, right? All the things that we're engaged in every day. We've got the business, we've got contracts, we've got employees, we have, our family, we've got our friends. And before you know it, the smile sort of turns into frowns. And so how do we experience more joy and happiness? How do we do that?
It's funny because people look at happiness as something they need to pursue. It's even in our Constitution is it the Constitution or is it the Bill of Rights that we have the right to pursue the pursuit of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness is not something we pursue. Happiness is like the air we breathe. It's what we swim in.
Yes.
Happiness is always present, just like the sun is always present or the stars are always present in the sky, even during the daytime when we can't see them.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness is always present. And so it's a matter of becoming present. We're so busy doing this, doing that, running our business, taking care of our kids, that we're not being. We're not being. We forget how to be, which is the greatest part of being a grandparent in the whole wide world, is that you get to be with your grandkids. It's a totally different experience than doing as a parent. So being present in the moment means when you recognize that you're stressed, when you're feeling overwhelmed, it's actually stopping and recognizing that those feelings exist, honoring them, breathing them in, breathing them out. Honor them because they're there as warning signs to you.
Yes.
And then let your mind settle and recognize that that happiness, just like those stars in the sky that you can't see because it's daylight, are there. The happiness is there too. You do not have to pursue it.
Yeah.
It exists. It's in the gratitude. It's in the gratitude for what you have, not what you're trying to acquire.
Yes.
Or can acquire.
Yes.
But there's a 2-step thing to happiness that I talk about in some of my presentations. And the first step is recognizing that everyone wants to be happy just like you do. Yeah. Now, I don't know about you, but that was a revelation for me because I look at some of the crazy things people are doing, drug addicts and, people who have all these problems who are doing these crazy things to get attention or that are damaging them. And I think, how could that possibly be an effort to make themselves happy?
Yeah.
But that's their version, not of happiness, but of trying to get happiness. They think that drugs are going to make them happy. They think this abusive relationship is going to make them happy. Yes. They're misguided and they're making mistakes, perhaps, that hopefully they'll correct. But that's their attempt to be happy. So when we recognize that everyone around us wants to be happy, just like we do,
yes,
and that they're doing their best to do that, we can be more patient and generous and compassionate. And then the second step is to do whatever you can to help them achieve happiness, not the happiness of the drug addict or the abusive relationship, but happiness in being present with them.
Yes.
You don't have to give someone out, a new car or gifts or anything to make them happy. You need to be present with them and see them as a human being and give them grace. Offer them grace and space. And just that alone. And when I think about the times it happened to me today. I've had very stressful couple of weeks because of family situations and work situations. Sure. And a friend reached out today on Facebook and just said, I've been thinking about you and I just miss you so much and I love you and I want to just check in with you. And I was like, oh my God, she gave me grace and space.
Yeah.
And I reached back out to her and said, you're psychic. You have no idea how much I needed to hear that today. Wow. And it gave me that moment to breathe it in and recognize that I am so loved by so many people. And I feel underappreciated sometimes because I give too much and don't get enough back.
Yes. Yes.
And there's a cure for that too. One day I was feeling really unappreciated by my family and I was feeling really resentful. My pity party was turning into a grand pity ball when I realized how miserable I felt. And so I remembered the Lama's words and I picked up the phone and I dialed a random number and I got the voicemail of some computer guy. And I said, you don't know me, but I want to tell you that even if no one tells you, you are appreciated. And I hung up the phone. Oh, and in 8 seconds, I went from feeling miserable because I felt unappreciated. Yep. But by giving someone else appreciation, what I felt like I needed, by giving that away to someone else, I felt like $1 million. All my resentment was gone. I was happy again.
Yes. I love that. I love that. There's a couple of things I want to highlight that you said is being present, right? Really being present to the moment because happiness,
that's all exists.
Yes, right. That's all we have is this moment anyway. We don't have the last moment and we don't have the future moment. We only have this moment, right? So there's really being present, and being present in my mind means that you allow yourself to be where you are and also where you're not, and appreciating the moment you're in. Right?
Exactly. And it's the only moment you have to make a choice. Once you recognize that this is the only moment you've got, you can say, well, I have a choice and what I want to do next. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed, I have a choice about whether I want to accept this overwhelm or do something about it.
Yes, exactly.
Right? To ask for help.
Yes. And I'm glad you said overwhelm, because is overwhelm really in this moment? Or is it in the mind where thoughts are that creates it?
Overwhelm is obsession about the past that we can no longer control, or worry about the future.
That's right.
With worry, either it's going to work out fine, in which case, why worry? Or something's going to happen and we'll react to it and fix it. So why worry?
Why worry, right? So happiness.
And most of the things we worry about don't happen anyway.
Exactly. They never do, right? Very rarely, right? So happiness is available in the moment if you're being present. So I got that in what you said. And I think that's key because as powerful business women, we tend to be overwhelmed, and we've just distinguished what that is. No real reality to it, right? And we tend to be overstressing about something that might happen or happened yesterday, which has nothing to do with this moment, robs us of the smile and the joy that life can bring. And then I heard there could be these random acts of kindness, like picking up the phone, sharing with someone, have an amazing day, extraordinary day, or you're appreciated, no attachment to you at all. So then there's no room for additional chatter about that, right? It may create chatter if you call a friend who you have some conversation about internally. But if you call some random person and it's a free giving moment, joy is available to you.
Yes, and that is my go-to solution for when I'm really feeling overwhelmed is to
Yeah.
do for another person what I feel like I need. Because when I do it, and again, I'm not trying to do it selfishly, but I just learned that when I give what I think I need to someone else, if I need love, if I give love to someone else, I feel fulfilled. My heart feels full. I feel loved. When I give respect or attention or honor or acts of service to somebody else, I get it back. It fills up your cup. It fills your heart with joy. Happiness is this. Happiness is, oh my God, this thing I wanted to happen happened. I'm so happy. And then there's the bottom side of that, which was I was denied something I wanted or somebody thwarted me and I'm unhappy. Joy is this aquifer, this river of amazement and peace that just doesn't change.
It's very constant.
Available,
Very
like
constant. Yes.
constant.
I love that. I love that. Well, we could talk for hours about that.
Oh, I know.
So we're going to get into just a little bit of the certification. And I know the ladies are like, well, let's talk more about that, right? Let's talk more about that. But the thing that I want to say about this sort of switch is we realize that having these conversations are critical and paramount. The conversations that are vulnerable, the conversations that we are avoiding, or the conversations that we are running away from are conversations that we need to have. So we're going to continue to have those, on our podcast. But we also want to be certain that attached to that is strategy, systems, process, certifications in this case, that we also need to be extraordinary in our business. So we're going to marry those two worlds today.
Nice segue.
Right? And so I think there's joy in certification, right? So I said at the top of the hour that I think there's a lot of misconception about certification. How do we really leverage certification? And maybe you can just give us a little intro about that, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about how we leverage it.
Sure. Certifications are designed for small disadvantaged businesses, which includes women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, disabled veteran-owned businesses, to get a leg up for federal and corporate contracts and state contracts in most cases. And so I specialize in helping women-owned businesses become certified with the federal government through the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. You used to be able to self-certify with the federal government through sam.gov to get certified. Then you could just say, I'm a woman-owned business and get some of these contracts. But now they require you get third-party certification, and that's where I come in.
Oh, very good.
There are two things I'm hit with most of the time. Women who say, that's not for my business. It's, it wouldn't benefit me. And then the other one is women who say, oh yes, this is perfect. I'll get so much stuff if I get certified. I want to set expectations here and say, if you are the kind of business that does business with corporations, with municipalities, with state governments, with federal governments, certification is right for you. If you're a life coach or something like that, it's less likely that this is going to be something that's really going to benefit you.
Right.
But if you're selling a service or a product that is in demand, then this is something you need to explore. Right now, 5% of all contracts that come from the federal government and most states have to go to our women-owned small businesses. And they have difficulty finding enough women to fulfill these contracts. But it's not just with the governments, it's also with these corporate agencies, these corporations, UPS and Clorox and all these companies now have supplier diversity programs, and they're looking for these women who have these businesses that can provide catering services and flowers and gift baskets and accounting services, all these things that they need. So they're looking for you. So certification can help you get in touch with them. It's not a difficult process. It's an extremely tedious process. My fee is a pain in the butt fee.
Gotcha.
Women don't want to go through that process themselves because it takes months to go through it, and it takes a lot of work, a lot of hours. And so I do the heavy lifting, and there are other people that you can go to that can do the same thing. But you can try to do it yourself, but you want to estimate you're going to take 50 to 100 hours to do it.
Wow. So it sounds like, if you want to do business with the government, right, this is certainly an area that you want to give some attention to.
Yes.
And what are some of the misconceptions, though? I know I've certainly had some of our clients who've gone through certifications and it's been beneficial to them. But I was curious as an expert, just for our audience, I think that some of the business owners take it for granted, really.
That's the biggest misconception.
Right.
Yes.
So say more about that.
Okay. The biggest misconception is that I'm going to get certified and the business will flow to me.
Right.
It really takes a lot of effort on your part, but it's so worth it for these $1 million contracts that are available to you, depending on what your business is, multi-million dollar contracts in some cases. But like, for example, with WeBank, the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, which is one of the third-party self-certifying certifying organizations, they have an annual conference you can go to, and you actually get to meet the supplier diversity people for Ford and Samsung and Lenovo and all these other companies. But you also want to get involved in the organization. So I started volunteering when I was certified with WeBank.
Oh, I see.
That way I got one-on-one time with some of these companies in a way that I would not have had I not become involved in the organization.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So one misconception for sure is that once you're certified, contracts are going to flow your way. It sounds like there should be some engagement, right? There's much like anything, there's networking and all of that. And you have to be a part of sort of the system, to get to know people and really integrate yourself into it. Is there another area that most people think of when they think of certification that they really misunderstand?
I think the second one is it won't make a difference for my company. If you sign up to receive notifications about the procurement opportunities with your municipality and your state government and the federal government, you will receive in your inbox opportunities for you to apply to be a contractor with these folks. So you have to take the 15 minutes to sign up for that procurement process. You have to take an hour a week or half an hour a week and go to the federal procurement site and look for contracts.
I see.
So, we've been talking so much about how women overdo and we do too much. Yeah. This is something to delegate. This is something to ask someone on your team, if you have a team, to do, that they become responsible for helping identify these prospects, these opportunities, so that you can take advantage of them and grow your business exponentially. I want to add one more thing about certification. There's a kind called 8A certification. It's mainly for minority-owned business owners.
Yes.
It's virtually impossible to get it if you're a white male or even a white woman. But if you are a minority descent, you can apply for an 8A certification. It's relatively expensive to get. I've never helped somebody through that process. It can cost anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 to go through the process, but you will get sole source contracts. In other words, if you're in transportation and you are an 8A recipient, and there's a contract that the federal government needs someone to do exactly what you do, it's a set aside. You don't have to compete with anyone to get it. And these are multi-million-dollar contracts. And you get a mentor, for example, with this example, with the Department of Transportation, who will say, let me connect you to these opportunities.
Oh, very good.
It's a way to go from being $1 million company to being a 10 or $100 million company.
Which is perfect, right? Because it marries so well with what we do. Sometimes it's really that simple. Sometimes we suggest that maybe you buy a business, but in this case, maybe a certification, right? And so I'm glad you brought that up in terms of a misconception, because people, they think, okay, I'm going to get certified and I'll just get all these contracts, or I'll be certified and I'll just have it, right? But no, there's true value in it. Yeah, yeah, you have to work it. But there's also, we talked about this also at the top of the hour. We don't have to be overworked. We can delegate these responsibilities to
Get an intern,
others.
pay them $10 an hour, and hire them for 2 hours a week.
Yes,
$20 a week. For $20 a week, you can have somebody on top of these procurement opportunities that are going to grow your business exponentially.
absolutely. And it sounds fantastic. The last thing I'll say about this, CJ, is, we shift our thinking about our business, but we shift our thinking about ourselves. And
Yes.
before you know it, we can have someone like yourself come along, help us with certification, and our business is thriving. As compared to, I'm stressed because I'm never present to the moment, right? That we've just talked about. I'm overwhelmed and there's no way I'll ever have what I want. And in
And
just 30 minutes, we've distinguished a couple of different things that can take a woman's business to the next level, and she can achieve her goals as well as achieve her dreams. So
and to bring it full circle, all you have to do, the help is out there. All you have to do is ask for it.
all you have to do is ask. So
Yes.
CJ, thank you so much. This has been amazing.
It has been delightful. You are a very gracious host. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. And I'm just looking forward to more conversations. So we will have you back on the show to talk a
Thank
little
you.
bit more about additional business challenges. Thank you so much. Scaling your business requires innovation sometimes. You have to learn to color outside of the lines. It means you have to take a leap into unfamiliar territory. So many businesses, just like yours, are taking the leap. Join us so you can leap into profits. Leap.thep3group.com